Hi, sixth grade. Today, what we're going to do in this podcast is I'm going to teach you the vocab words for lesson 3. So, as you're watching this podcast, I would follow along with your salmon sheets as well as your vocabulary workbook. If you want to, after you learn each word, I would pause, write the word in your own word on the salmon sheet, and draw a picture, and then continue with the podcast. The first word is abundance. There are abundance of apples in this picture, meaning that there are so many apples in this picture. There are like almost so many. It's like, it's like the opposite of when someone is in a famine when they don't have that much food, because here in this case, they have so much food. At this point, you should stop and on your salmon sheet, write the word abundance, write this meaning in your own words, and draw a picture. Arid. Arid is when there's like no moisture, when there's no rain. Very often a desert has an arid climate, meaning there's very little rain, it's very dry. The Negev in Israel, it has an arid climate because it's a desert climate. Once again, I would stop at this moment, take out your salmon sheet, write what arid means in your own words, and then draw a picture. The next word is distinct. Distinct is kind of like clear, looks different, looks, it was this distinct flower, meaning this flower was very clear and distinct and looked different. It stood out. In this place, this Amish man is very distinct. He kind of stands out among the crowd. Sometimes when we're a Jewish group of people among a big group of non-Jewish people, then we stand out. We're very distinct, with our yarmulkes and maybe our skirts sometimes. So very distinct, very clear, stands out. At this point, I would, on your salmon sheet, write what distinct means in your own words and write a sentence. Graze. Graze is, cows very often like to graze on the grass. They kind of like walk slowly. They eat on the grass. Graze also can mean like with a snowball, like grazes your chin. It kind of like softly touches your chin, softly touches your sweater. I'm right next to my daughter right now. I'm going to graze her cheek. I'm going to softly touch her cheek, and she likes that very much. I'm going to do that to Fanny, graze her cheek. Right, so graze is kind of like to softly touch, or in this case, the cows are grazing on the grass. They're slowly, walking on the grass, and they're slowly nibbling from the grass. If you want to know the exact definition, look in your Wordly Wise for the exact worded definition if you're confused by what I'm saying. Also, make sure in your salmon sheet to make sure to write the definition in your own words and draw a picture. Hectic. It is so hectic Shabbos afternoon now that it's a short Shabbos. Hectic, very busy. There's a lot going on. Write the definition in your own words and draw a picture. Horde, a lot of people. There was a horde of people at the rally today. There was a horde of people at the assembly waiting to meet their most amazing teacher, Mrs. Kurtz. A horde, a lot of people. That's why sometimes, sorry, just continue. At this point in your salmon sheet, write what you think the word means in your own words, and then draw a picture. Humid. Humid is very hot. There's very often humid is a little bit different than arid. Arid, there's no moisture in the air. Humid, very often when there's humid, there's like a little moisture in the air, so it's like really even grosser. You feel like you feel sticky and gross. Sometimes in the summer it gets very, very humid, and you just feel really yucky. So humid is like when there's a lot of moisture in the air, and very often it's very hot. So it's like hot and moisture, but it's not rainy. Sometimes when it does rain in humid weather, it's even more grosser. Incredible is amazing. When David beat Goliath, this is actually a picture of David and Goliath. When David beat Goliath, it was a tremendous feat that David beat this giant. So incredible is amazing. Inhabit is to kind of like live. We are inhabits. We inhabit this world. Inhabitants, we are an inhabitant of this world. So inhabit is a verb, is to actively inhabit, to actively live. Inhabitant is a noun. We as a person are inhabitants of this world. Inhabitant are people that live in this, kind of people that live in an area, take up space and stuff like that. Peninsula is a type of area that juts out and it's surrounded by water. So it has to jut out and surrounded by water. Florida juts out, if you notice, and it is surrounded by water. Cape Cod juts out and is surrounded by water. Rural is kind of like the countryside. A rural area. Is a country-like area. So if anyone ever goes to the state or think about where your camps are, very often they're in rural areas, in the country area. Sanctuary is a safe place, and it's often a place of protection.
What is this?
It's a sanctuary. Interestingly,
What is this food?
there's a lot of people there, but let me talk, and then I'll show it to you later. You can understand why a shul is called a sanctuary, because if you think about when we go into a shul to daven, we're in a safe place protected by Hashem. So a safe place is a place of protection. Make sure on your sandwich sheets write the definition and draw a picture. Splendor and splendid. Splendor is the noun version, and splendor is the adjective. It's a beautiful, beautiful hall.
It is a beautiful hall.
It is a beautiful hall. So splendor and splendid it's a beautiful palace. So it's a beautiful area. It's like tremendous wealth, and it's just magnificent. So splendor or splendid is very fancy and magnificent and beautiful. Squalor or squalid is very often it connotes like people who live in very, very poor conditions. Very often they're dirty and poor areas. They have very poor living conditions. To live in squalor to means to live with almost like nothing. Very often connotes someone who lives with very little running water, little food. If you notice over here, they live in huts. Unfortunately, there are many people in Africa who are very poor, live in squalor, live in very poor areas with very little amenities and little things.
What is that?
Terrain is the surface features of an area. So in this case, the surface features.
What is that?
It's a mountain. In this case, the surface feature is very snowy and mountainous. So terrain is the surface features. You're going to definitely learn this word in social studies. Okay, at this point, you should, if you don't know what the words mean exactly, then you should look in the Wordly Wise. And in your salmon sheets, you should write what the definitions are in your own words, and then a picture. And then also make sure to do your vocabulary work in your workbook. Chani and Ahuva want to say hi to everyone. So Chani, you want to lean in? Say hi to everyone. You're on camera. Smile. Ahuva, you want to say hi to everyone? Say hi. Bye, everyone. This is Mrs. Kurtz.